Megyn Kelly, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Dave Smith, Joe Rogan, all the Trump trumpets. Bring it on. I'm Chris Cuomo. Welcome to the Chris Cuomo Project. Listen, my brothers and sisters, I don't know why everybody's so upset about all the righties in the podosphere, in the digital dungeon, whatever you want to call the pod people. Why are you sweating these bombastic big mouths? Rogan at least can sit there and listen to people, okay? He may not have that much to add all the time. And let's be honest, all these fringies on the right, they never talk about when Joe Rogan is checking their own bullshit, right? When he's like, wow, this doesn't make any sense. And why did they cut this aid? And why did they do that? And why did they don't give Rogan any credit for that. They're milking him. And look, it's paid off for him. He's a big boy. He makes his own choices. But I got to tell you, I'm here for it. Not because I believe in food fights. That's what works for them. They're about what they're against. They're about feigned outrage with little bony hands that are made into fists with their little ski hats on and their little ploys of being populists. That's their vibe. It's not mine. Anger can be a great tool, but it also can be really empty. I don't care how much I get sneered at by my scarecrow friend, Megyn Kelly. I mean, if that's what she wants to do, that's what she wants to do. All I know is she keeps coming after me and saying no one pays attention to me. Yeah, except you, sweetheart, right? So here's my point. I'm not looking for a fight. I ask these people to come onto my show. I asked Megyn Kelly to come on the show. She doesn't want to because it's much easier to talk about me than to talk to me. That was my experience with Dave Smith. Look, I don't agree with him about certain aspects of the pandemic. Others, I do. You want to talk lab leak? I was talking about it early on. I got chased away from it by the rest of the media and by the Trump administration and others who were pro-China at that time. That's just the truth. I also knew that in the middle of a pandemic, where it came from wasn't as fundamental of curiosity as to how many of us it was going to kill. But if we could go back and have a real review that wasn't done by a bunch of harpies in Congress, you would see that a lot of the measures had been unnecessary or they were overdone or they were even counterproductive, especially when you look at the kids in the schools. And if you were to go back and look at my time at CNN, you would see that a lot of my coverage tracked that way. But you were selling the vaccine. Who wasn't? It was done by Trump. He called it the beautiful vaccine. You all celebrated it as such. Okay? Let's not fucking forget. Okay? Yeah, but you faked having COVID. You're a stupid ass. Okay? If that's what you think, you're a stupid ass. And I don't even know why you're on here. Please, Safeway, time to leave. What I'm saying is, we did a lot of things as a society at that time that were probably wrong. Were they in bad faith? No. I dismiss all the Tony Fauci shit. They never proved a fucking thing. There hasn't been a significant investigative move against him, and there won't be. Tony Fauci didn't get rich off COVID. He didn't create COVID. He didn't get paid for the vaccine. This is all bullshit, okay? Yeah, and I know Tony Fauci, and I like Tony Fauci, but I would not defend him if he had been cashing in on making people sick, okay? I'd be the first one to say, fuck him, if that's what he did. But I have no proof of it. But I know you get paid for saying it. I know you get paid for division. That's why the podosphere is so lopsided to the right. It's not because, as I heard Charlie Kirk say the other day to Governor Gavin Newsom, well, the Democrats can't make it in the podosphere because it's too masculine. Look, I've met Charlie Kirk. I think he's a passionate guy. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a tall guy. I don't believe that he has set some new masculine standard that could never be matched by anybody on the left. He should go meet Andrew Cuomo and see how he sizes up man for man with him. That's silly, okay? The reason Democrats haven't broken through in the podosphere is because it works better with pockets. It works better with fringe thinking. And there is more of that better organized on the right, especially during the MAGA age, than on the left. Now, I'm not saying they're any better. They are giving way too much comfort to extreme Islamism. The squad is a fucking disease for the Democrats, okay? And they better figure it out because fundamentalism deserves no home in America. And on the far right, sure, you got your neo-national, neo-Nazis, whatever you want to call them, crazy white people. You have them. They just did a big bust. The army was involved with it. They found weapons. White nationalism is a real thing. And no, not all Trump voters are white nationalists. Come on. But all white nationalists are Trump voters. And you got to think about why that is. And no, I don't think that means Trump is a Nazi. I don't believe that. But I believe that he gives quiet, if not loud, support to the idea of white fright, that you have a reason to be afraid they are coming for you. And those guys feed on that shit. Now, they're not that different than Megyn Kelly and Tim Pool and these other propagandists with their podcasts. They all get paid to play on your anger. And if you look at it, I'm sick of his shit. I'm sick of his shit. I laugh, and maybe part of why I laugh is because I don't take it seriously as a threat. You got to consider the source, okay? These people exist in the potosphere because they couldn't make it in mainstream media. That's why they're there. And look, I know what it's like to be fired from mainstream media, right? I was fired from CNN wrongly, never lied to anybody about anything. If you don't like that I helped my brother, fine. But I didn't help him in ways that went after his accusers. That's for sure. I did the opposite. And my bosses knew exactly what I was doing. So I know what it's like to be fired. But I'll tell you what didn't happen to me. I didn't have the people that I worked with. Now, look, little gossip people can say whatever they want to say about how people at CNN felt about me or do feel about me. Let me tell you something. I was loyal to my team and they were loyal to me. I was good to the people that I worked with and they were good to me. I believe in managing down, not up. I take care of the people who are putting me on TV and taking care of me and making sure that I look better than I should. Bosses, not so great. Easy to manage, not so much. But that's my problem. I'll tell you what I wasn't. I wasn't paid out my full contract just to leave because of how unpopular I was in the place where I worked. That never happened to me. In fact, that's only happened to one person I've ever heard of. There's only one person I've ever heard of who was so disliked by the people on their team, who is seen as so destructive to a brand as a news organization, who was so unsuccessful that they were paid in full to leave, okay? One person, and I guarantee she knows who she is. And my point is this. You know what I said at that time? And here's the difference between me and my angry friend. It was wrong how people rode Megyn Kelly out on a rail. It was wrong how they ganged up on her. It was wrong how they played up that professionally she did not have the skill set to try to be the next Diane Sawyer or Barbara Walters. Of course she didn't. That's not, she is a pundit. She is someone who plays an outrage. She's clever. She's angry. She presents this odd study in contrast, right? She kind of looks like a Stepford wife, but she acts like someone who would bash your windows in a car and kneecap you. She's like part Tanya Harding, part Farrah Fawcett kind of thing. Like, I don't know what works for people about her, but that's it. She's smart. She's mean. She's on it. She's pretty, and it works, but not for the majority who want reasonable, who want to know that you're professional, that your emotions are in check, that you know how to treat people with decency, that you can make insights, not just insults. What she does is cheap. It's easy. It's obvious. It worked well on cable for a captive audience. She would have never worked anywhere else. There's a reason she's not at News Nation. There's a reason you'd never see her at CNN. And I don't want to be there. She would have taken a job there. I guarantee you. We are supported by dupe.com. Now, let me tell you the genius of this little life hack to get what you want without paying so much. I remember when I wanted a leather couch and I was in Macy's and I was also broke. And I'm looking at this couch, and it was the first of the modular couches, the sectionals, that you could build them into different pieces and put the Barca lounger and this and that. And I'd always wanted it, but it was so expensive. But when I was in that position, there was no dupe.com. And what I love about it is that it enables you to get what you want without getting the sticker shock. All you do is you go to dupe.com, okay, / and then put in the product that we're talking about, whether it's the sectional couch, the Barca lounger, or the bedroom set, or whatever it is. And what they do is use technology to find products, furniture that are just like what you want, but at a fraction of the cost. And what is that? It can be 80% cheaper. It looks exactly like what you want. Sometimes it's an even better version of what you are looking at. They give you different choices. But the point is, you can live your dream without going deep into debt. And that's why Dupe is one of the most viral shopping hacks on TikTok. Millions of people have already used Dupe to save money. Dupe.com is a great way for you to take care of yourself, your needs, and your clients. And it's so easy to use. Just type dupe.com / before any product URL in your browser, and boom, instantly, dupe.com finds you less expensive alternatives. Same look, same feel, lower price. Genius! They even have an app and a browser extension that you can download. No account required, no sign up required. It's completely free to use. So what do you say? Stop wasting money on brand names and start saving with dupe.com today. To get thrown out of a network, because not only do you suck at the job, but the people there don't want you there. Now, you can say, good, I didn't want to be there. I don't like what they represented. Fine. I feel the same way about her and her little club of faux conservative podcasters who just pay fealty to Trump. And I'll never get past that with her. Her initial analysis of him was supposed to be completely authentic, and then she just went back on it. Why? Because she wanted to make money and get back in the business. And she can have her little minions sitting around who tell her everything she says is great. I don't care. I appreciate success, and where people find it, fine, because the media is a business, okay? And you find ways to make money, and there are ways to do it, and she has found one. And, that's fine. That's acceptable. But why are you sweating her? Why are you upset that she's coming at me? I honestly couldn't care much less than I do. I listen. I want to hear what it is. I feel the same way about the little guy with the ski hat who found his way into a White House press conference and then asked a question that completely disqualified him, which was helpful because they learned this is a bad look for us. And if you've noticed, they've kept those pod people gone since that first little flurry of activity. They don't want to be low rent, unsophisticated, and playing to a bunch of mouth breathers. That's not what they want. Trump doesn't want to be seen that way. I guarantee you, Tim Pool is not his person, okay? Benny Johnson at least looks a little bit more straight-laced. But sycophants, he doesn't keep them around for long. He changes them in and out, okay? And I get why they're successful, especially in the minor leagues. I get it. I get it. Joe Rogan and 2 or 3 other people are outliers in digital media, right? Think about it. Mr. Beast is like the biggest guy of all time. He does like children's programming. Right? So this is not ABC, NBC, CBS, all the other alphabet soup. It's not. It's not even cable. And yes, trust is coming down. Why wouldn't it? Everybody is telling you with every breath they have to not trust anybody but them. Why? It works for their bottom line. Okay? And I'm telling you, each of them, if they had the opportunity, wanted to be at one of the bigger real organizations. Why? Credibility, reach, professionalism. They just didn't make it. And I get it. I get why you then turn against it. I guess why you attack it. I guess why you go after it. But what do I care? On one level, I guarantee you something. None of these people speak to me the way they speak about me. Okay? That was even true with Tucker Carlson, okay? He used to come after me every night at Fox. You heard what he said, and this epiphany and this rebirth that he's had, right? And I say that I say that with no animus and no cynicism. I respect people's personal evolution and change. You be what you want to be. You be how you want to be. I'm not here to judge you or anybody else. What I'm saying is, he sat down across from me and said, yeah, I was an asshole. I did that because that was what we did at Fox. He said the quiet part out loud. It's an act. This is what they do. They're not authentic. I'm telling you, if it worked for her or for any of them, they would be my best friend. I'm telling you, even when I sit on stage with these people, I go on a podcast with these people, they don't talk to me the way they talk about me. Why? Several reasons. One, if they're males, they don't do it because they're afraid of getting their ass whooped. Because on a simple level, men have to be careful what they say to other men. You want to have an intellectual debate, that's fine. There's plenty of men in this world and women who would slice me up like cheese intellectually. I actually relish those opportunities. It's great to learn and to grow and to be tested that way. But there's certain things I won't say to another man unless I have my hands up. Why? Because at a certain point, somebody's going to try and smack you in the mouth, right? No, that's uncivilized. We're uncivilized. We give ourselves way too much credit for civility. Megyn Kelly is civilized. These podcasters, this level of dialogue, this is civilized. It's all ad hominems all the time. It's all personal attacks all the time because you care so much about the family of Lake and Riley. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're just exploiting them for political gain, which is why you move on. You move on to the next. And you find your handful of cases and pretend that you're advocating for them, but you're full of shit. Because what you're really about is just your own personal advantage. And that's how you can go from seeing Trump as one kind of pig, animal, this, that, when it works for you, and then thinking he's the greatest and sitting there as if you were waiting to be tapped on each shoulder with a sword. I get it. It works for them. This is why they do it. And they're playing to fears. They're playing to grievance. They're playing to outrage. What I don't understand is why you don't see that for what it is and make it your challenge to be better. If you don't like what they are, if you want to come to me and say, I hate what she said about you, I hate what they say about you. Well, one, respect me enough to listen to why I don't give a shit what they say. I guess there is some fundamental value in having people talk about you because positive and negative is like gone these days. It's like ever since Monica Lewinsky and OJ, there's like no line between fame and infamy anymore. You're just known or not known. Like my kids talk about Kim Kardashian like she was a former Supreme Court justice. Or maybe a sitting Supreme Court judge, or maybe better than that these days. You know what I'm saying? There's no more line anymore. And, you know, you can think about that what you want. I have concerns about that. But the point is, if they're talking about you, you're relevant. And I guess there's some value in that. But in terms of the teeth of the criticism, I don't care. One, say it to me, not about me. Come on my show and make your case and do it in person so we can sit across from each other. Not because I'm a bully. I hate bullies. I was bullied as a kid. I don't believe in it. I fight bullies. I go after them. I think Megyn Kelly is a bully. She's a different kind. I mean, she's not a physical bully. She's not physically intimidating by any measure as a female or a male. But what I'm saying is that's what she does with her mouth, right? With her feigned outrage. It's the same thing that a whole group of them do. They're bullies. And then they play the victim if anything is said to them or about them. That's the kind of, that's the kind of yin yang of their vibe, right? They're victims one second, they're on the attack the next. And it's just a game. It's just a play. I just don't understand why independent thinkers give a shit. If you dismiss their ideas, you can't think of a single thing that any of them are for. So what do you care? Support comes from OneSkin. Now, let me tell you how I heard about OneSkin, okay? It has a proprietary OS1 peptide, all right? It's the first ingredient proven to switch off the damaged senescent cells that can help cause lines, wrinkles, thin and crepey skin that you get when you're my age. And here's how I learned about it. My daughter. I got a 15-year-old who's like all in to the cosmetics and all the beauty stuff. And her mom, my wife, is running a wellness company, so they're tracking all this stuff. And it was one skin, one skin, one skin, one skin. So eventually, one of them looks at my mug and they're like, hey, you should try it. And you know what? I did. And now I wanted them as a sponsor. You know why? Because they work. And it's not perfumey, it's not too heavy, it's not hard to apply. Here's what you do. You clean your face, you pat dry your skin, and you put this on twice a day, okay? Now, you definitely start to feel a tautness, not uncomfortable, but you definitely feel that it's doing something that's helping you like reform your eye and jawline a little bit. OneSkin's proprietary OS1 peptide is the first ingredient that has been proven to switch off those senescent cells that cause lines and all the other stuff that you don't want on your face. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company, and that's why I'm in. I'm in the sun a lot, I fish a lot, I'm outside a lot, and I ain't getting any younger. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off. You just got to use my code Cuomo. Just go to oneskin.co and you'll get 15% off with the code Cuomo. All right? After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about him. Guess what you say? Show the love for your boy. Tell him Cuomo sent me. Give him the code Cuomo and you'll get 15% off at oneskin.co. They're getting paid, they've got their following, they're not a majority. They'll never make it with the majority. Trump got a majority, not because of podcasters. He got a majority because of stupid Democrats that broke every cardinal rule of politics. They gave you a bad candidate who was clearly in his decline, who said he'd be a one-term president. He then dragged it out. They then refused to give you, as a Democratic Party, a democratic process, and foisted upon you a bad candidate who had never even won a primary. Yes, she did. She won all of them as Biden's candidate and the vice president, and they won the election. She didn't win the election. He won despite her, not because of her. Come on. And I'm not anti-Kamala Harris. I'm nothing. I'm indifferent on Kamala Harris. She was just not a great candidate, and she didn't handle the situation well. And yes, I'm sure being female and being a person of color is relevant in America and probably in most places. It is, but it wasn't dispositive. I don't think so. But the Democrats' miss and malfeasance was. That's why so many of you felt like you had to vote for Trump, that in that moment, he was approximating normal more than the Democrats. It's unforgivable to me. You know that song, The Day the Music Died? That was like the day that party died. And it's still dead. The Republican Party was dead when they were figuring out Trump. And they found their way into MAGA, populist movement, playing on anger, playing to division. It works, and it's working for them right now. I think the left is making a mistake trying to be MAGA blue. I think it's a big mistake. I don't think that becoming what beats you gets you where you want to be. I don't. I think you got to be in the business of better. And I think there's so much opportunity. Look, even this cadre of cads that I'm talking about, these podcasters with the big mouths, there's opportunity in that. Most people are not like them. You're not going to meet a lot of people who are that openly abrasive and unintelligent and just completely obnoxious all the time and making shit up and playing to half-truths and ignoring other things that create context and understanding. But they're just doing it for profit and for following. And it works. It can get you 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 million people in this country who make you part of their value system. But you have almost 400 million people in this country. And our elections swing Democratic when all of digital media and social media is fringe right for a reason. Now, by the way, do I think that's a good thing? No. I think the two-party system is a bad thing. I think division is a bad thing. I think division as a device is a worse thing. And the binary system, I think, is the root of it. Yes, it's allowing a Megyn Kelly to succeed where she had failed before in the media, but it's not helpful to the majority because America has always moved forward through collective concern. That's what we have done in this country. To the extent that the experiment has worked, and when it has worked, it's been because of the mosaic, which is a tapestry of our common concerns, born out of the diversity. Right? That as different as we are, there are things that bring us together, right? Interest in family, living that dream, finding opportunity, succeeding or fail on your own merits, taking care of your own, live and let live. There are core values that we have here that matter. But we're just constantly being distracted by what makes us different and divides us. Why? Because it works for the two parties. And I say the two parties because both of them do this. Does one do it more than the other? Yeah, in my opinion, yes. Is one of them more toxic than the other? Yes. Yes. But that can also swing. What the Democrats did with Biden, a lack of process, and then forcing Harris. And if it's true that Biden insisted it be Harris because he basically wanted to tank his party, fine, if that's true. Does it make it worse? I don't know how much worse it could be. They did everything wrong and for the wrong reasons. It was terrible what they did. And the worst part of all of it was that they gave Trump and MAGA an ability to stand on high ground as having more interest in democracy than the Democrats, which I think is just disgusting. So this is where we are. We're in a very divisive place. And the media loves criticism as a proxy for insight. We love it. We feed on it. So when one comes after another, it's going to get pickup, right? Like you'll see, this will resonate, this piece. Because I'm calling out Megyn Kelly and these other conservative podcasters. I wish them no ill will. I really don't. They don't raise to that level for me. And maybe, again, it's my limitations as a human being that make me less receptive to the criticism. Maybe instead of Megyn Kelly, it was Mike Kelly, and I saw him somewhere and he talked that same shit to me. Maybe it would become way more serious to me. And that's not just a chauvinism. Although I guess I can embrace that. Maybe men just take insults from men differently than they take them coming from women. I don't know. Maybe it's how I was raised. I don't know. But intellectually, I take men and women equally. Often I take women a little bit more seriously, to be honest, because I think there's more sophistication of thought. There's more of a marriage of head and heart with women when it comes to political philosophy very often and justifications of political motivations, I think. But that's just my opinion. Support comes from 120 Life. Look, you don't need to make it up. High blood pressure is a real thing for us, especially in America. High blood pressure is the number one risk for adults. 50% of us, 1 in 2, have high blood pressure. Diabetes, prediabetes, it's all over American society. 120 Life helps. Why? Superfruit juices. The science is clear, and the combination has worked. That's why thousands of healthcare professionals have recommended it, and many thousands have taken it and seen. And here's the good news. You can check your blood pressure, all right? You just get a monitor at home, and you can see. And if within 2 weeks you don't see a positive improvement in your numbers, 120 Life will give you your money back. I mean, what else do you want? Something that is natural, not gimmicky, and has a money-back guarantee. It doesn't get any better than that, and that's why I'm happy to partner with them. If you try 120 Life right now, you're going to get a 15% discount if you use the code Chris at checkout on 120life.com. You're going to get free shipping. You got this money back, no questions asked, guarantee if your blood pressure doesn't improve within 2 weeks. But what I think is less an opinion and more an observation that is worthy of your attention is, one, don't worry about me. I can take care of myself, and I am unburdened by what any of these people say about me. Why? Because fundamentally, I do not respect the source of the criticism. And the reason I asked them to have them come on is because it's so obvious to expose them for what they really are. And I'm telling you, they're phonies. And when you see them in person, it is different. And I think on one level, that's a good thing. I think that when people are in person and it counts and there's no camera, I think that how you handle yourself there matters more in terms of preserving some modicum of decency in us. And I know that I have every ability to be with people who say really nasty shit about me, and in person, treat them with civility and decency. Why? Why not? Well, why would I want to be what I oppose? You know, Marcus Aurelius was right when he said the greatest revenge is to not be like what offends you. We don't do that. We double down. Right now, there's so many of you who want me to say mean, nasty shit about Megyn Kelly or Tim Pool or Joe Rogan or whoever it is. I don't want bad things for them. They may want bad things for me. I don't want bad things for them. You really think I don't care about the family of Laken Riley? Really? As a father of 3? Really? You think that as somebody who's traveled this world for decades, watching the worst that humanity has to offer and seeing how crushing it is for people, so much loss, so much death, and that I think that doesn't matter? Really? I don't think any intelligent person can think that. So then what's it really about? It's about opportunism and advantage and being obnoxious. My point is very simple. Statistically, is one too many? Well, sure. We just don't obey that standard anywhere except where it works for us politically, right? One is only too many when it works for you. So Laken Riley and a handful of other homicides that you can point to a legal entrance are very upsetting because the people should have never been here. Fine, but let's unpack it. Should the people have ever been here? No. Should the border be secured? Yes. Should you deport people who are here illegally? Yes. All of them, in my opinion, no. Which ones? Criminal ones? 100%. Absolutely. There's huge buy-in on that. That's why it was so motivational in the last election. Even Democrats and independents were like, this is crazy how many people they let in. There's so many bad ones. But the idea that our homicide issue, that the people that we have to worry about preying on our Laken Rileys, and I have 2 of them, are illegal entrants, that's the likelihood. No, I don't believe one is too many because we don't follow that standard anywhere else. In fact, a lot of our businesses are legally allowed to build in death and injury as part of their product liability. So no, that is not our standard as a society. What I'm saying is that you're pretending that illegal entrants are a boogeyman, and you're ghoulishly grabbing onto the pain of their families, the way you accused people at Sandy Hook of doing, that they're grabbing onto these dead kids' families just to pass a gun law. Like that would have been so bad. But it's okay when you do it to help Trump. Then it's okay. What I'm saying is this. Should you control the border? Sure. Should you deport bad guys? Sure. Does how you do it matter? Yes. They ignore that part. Why? It doesn't play to your anger. Some lawyer, right? Supposed to be a prosecutor. But how you do it matters. Due process matters. Anybody who respects the law would respect that. Anybody who says, yeah, but these people don't deserve due process doesn't know the law. They do not know the law. It's very plain. It's very obvious. How much due process? Can that be changed legislatively? These are legitimate questions. However, what I'm saying is, if you want to make something a boogeyman, pick the right boogeyman. The idea that illegal entrants are what you have to worry about hurting your family is not supported by fact or fair-mindedness, okay? And you're going to see that if you were ever able to, which you're not, to deport all X million people who aren't supposed to be here, we would suffer more than we would benefit. Now, if you want to go all in on a boogeyman, and you have to ask yourself, why my pretty friend and all these other little guys don't do this? Extreme Islamism. Why aren't they all in on making that the threat that they do illegal entrance? Now, some of them are illegal entrance. The problem is most of them are not. And even if they are illegal entrance, they didn't come through the southern border. Some do. Some of every bad shit comes through. Northern border too, not as much. But the overwhelming majority come how? Look at what happened on 9/11. They didn't smuggle across the border. They overstayed visas, or they were on legitimate visas. They flew in. That's as big a part of the problem, but it's not as sexy. It's not as scary as the southern border. That's why they don't talk about it. And they don't talk about extreme Islamism because it does not just help Trump. Now, they could spin it that way because they could say that people on the fringe left are way too protective and selective in terms of how they call that out. But there's your unifying issue, and that's exactly why they don't talk about it as much. Because they don't want to unify. They don't want all of us to be addressing a common concern. They're not going to get paid that way. They need to cleave off a group of people who are going to be scared shitless by what they're saying and pissed off and look at them as a proxy for their outrage and to take it to all these bad members of the establishment where you get your face squeezed up. Your face is all squeezed up and your little bony hands are all tensed up because you're so upset about it. But if they're all so upset, why does it put a smile on my face? Because I know they're full of shit. Because if you really cared about that stuff, you'd be obsessed with extreme Islamism and fundamentalism taking root in this country. The way I am. And I believe that the president should jump on it more. Steve Bannon didn't understand what I was saying to him the other night. He wasn't listening to me well enough. I'm not saying that Trump doesn't care about it. I'm saying he should care about it more because it could give him what he wants most, which is popularity. He can bring people together in this country as a unifying cause. And unfortunately, fear works better than favor. And if you want to know what has the best chance of doing mass damage to the community where I live, it's not a rogue migrant, unless that rogue migrant is a jihadi who's coming for me, or some other funky fundamentalist who believes that in the name of their ideology, as perverse and as limited as it may be, as unintelligent as it may be, that they've come to the same conclusion that violence is an okay end. That's what I'm afraid of, not these fucking podcasters. I'm not afraid of any of them. Let them come. Say what you want. It does not affect me that way. I will invite you on. Depends what we're talking about, right? Because I want it to be of some benefit to the audience, other than just the theater of the absurd. But if it's a real issue, I'm happy to talk to them about it. And I guarantee you, they are not going to talk to me the way they talk about me. I'm just telling you, it's not how it works. And it's not just because they don't have the balls. It's because they have the brains to know that you don't do that when you're face to face, not without risk that they don't want to take. And I don't mean stupid shit like this. I mean that it's just different. Like when people say what they'd say to the president if they could, when you're sitting across from a president of the United States, as I have, you're not sitting in there talking to some schmo at a fucking bar, okay? You respect the position and you feel the power of it. And I think that's a good thing. My point is this. Focus on what matters. Worry about what matters, okay? Podcasters getting paid by feigning outrage is what they do. Don't worry about me because it doesn't worry me. I listen. I want to know where they're coming from. I believe in the marketplace of ideas, and I am certainly fallible, but I know that it's not about not caring about who killed Laken Riley and why that fucker was even here in the first place. It's that that's not what scares me most the way they want it to be, because it just works for Trump. It works politically. I'm worried about fundamentalism, and we are sleeping on it as a threat. And you see it with the kid who thought it was right to kill the CEO of the healthcare company. You see it with the guy who thought it was right to bomb the IVF clinic. You saw it with the guy who thought it was right to shoot the members of Congress at the baseball game. You saw it with the guy who decided to murder people at the Israeli embassy. You saw it with the guy in Boulder, Colorado. You saw it actually most recently with the guy who's the white nationalist that they just had a military operation on, and they caught him with weapons and planning on an attack. All of these examples, do these people like each other? Probably not. But they have all adopted the same mentality, which is we target the left. We hate democracy. We hate the system. We hate the culture. So they are no different. The white nationalist is no different than the jihadi. They're no different. They both want to destroy us. And they are taking root in this country, and the internet is supercharging it. Be worried about that. Focus on that. Attack that. That's what I'm telling you. Don't worry about fucking Megyn Kelly, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, and any of these people. Don't worry about them. If people want that, let them have it. If it benefits them, let it benefit them. I don't have any problem with it. I really don't. One is because I consider the source of the criticism, and often I know it's hollow, just like their heads. But what matters more to me is that you're not focusing energy on noise when there is real basis for concern. And if you've been in this business as long as I have, you see the difference between the two. You want to have a real review about the pandemic and see what was right and what was wrong and what we know about COVID as someone who has long COVID and it has compromised my life and what I'm able to do and when? Great. They don't have any interest in that, neither side. Trump can't do it because he doesn't want to own the vaccine. The Democrats don't want to do it because they don't want to own that they made bad choices. Neither side sees enough advantage in it to give a shit. They only deal with things where there's advantage for them. And that's what's killing us as a majority, as a country. I don't care about the big mouths and the loud people. I care about the majority and what matters to us and how to foster that. That's why I'm building the kinds of platforms that I am. Do they get as much attention as Benny Johnson or Laura Loomer or Megyn Kelly? No. Why? Because I'm not picking a side. Because I'm not just trying to stoke your anger. I'm not simply anti-Trump. I'm not simply, pro-Democrat or whatever it is that's going to give me a constituency. I believe in the majority. I believe in independent, free thinkers. I believe there are more of you, frankly, but I believe that if I'm going to have a smaller audience, I want it to be the kind of audience that matters to me, that I think is a function of the cognoscenti, of the thinking class, of people who are owning small businesses and raising families and running schools and paying attention to their kids. That's who I want to talk to. And in my generation, I don't have a whole lot of interest in talking to younger people. I want to talk to people in their 50s, 40s and 50s and 60s. Why? That's when you're in your power band. That's when you're earning the most and in control of the most. And those are the leaders. And that's who I want to be talking to and speaking for. So don't worry about me. I'm okay. Let them come. Let them say what they want to say. Let them feel how they want to feel. Let them depict me the way they want. I signed up for it. I'm in the media. So I get it. This is what happens. But it doesn't bother me personally. Honestly, as someone who just took a shot in the face just a few days ago, I know what it's like to get tagged and to feel it. This is not that. This is noise. But there are so many things that should really scare you. And no, I don't put Trump at the top of the list. I put fundamentalism at the top of the list. And right under that, I put the party system. Because they are dividing us as a path to our own destruction. This country has the luxury of making up its own problems. Nobody else is arguing about trans athletes because they have real problems to focus on. You ever notice how Europe, South America, they don't have the fights that we're having? They have their own populist struggles and conservative movements and far-right movements. And what's their real concern? How many Muslims are coming in and what they're going to do with them. Now, I don't share that phobia, but extreme Islamism is real and they have to own it because it's among their own and they got to speak out about it and they got to deal with it as much as everybody else does. And I don't think they do. And is that fair? Now, on one level, no, because they're not a monolith. But on another level, you've decided to be part of that. Not of the jihadi nature of it, but these are Muslims. Now, you can say, no, they're not, but you're going to have to make that case. You're going to have to make it a lot, and it's not made enough. But those are the things that I fear. Not some big mouth who needs a sandwich. I'm worried about real threats that affect the majority. And otherwise, it's just noise. And I'm okay with that. And so should you be. Don't play the game. Look, as a guy who just lost a sparring session because I wasn't paying attention to what I'm about to tell you, when you are in a conflict, you do what works for you. You don't mirror what's being done to you, okay? That's not going to put you in a better place. It's not going to help you defend yourself. It's not going to help you defeat your opponent. And I'm telling you, there is a better way than trying to be like what you oppose. There is a better way than returning the animus that is coming your way. Marcus Aurelius was right. Forget about Jesus. I know you all have a crucifix after your name and say God first, but we don't live it, because what would God say? Let her say what she wants to say. Let him say what he wants to say. If it's insulting, turn your cheek. How many times? 7 times 7 times 70. Why? Because it's a humongous number, and in the Bible, they like the number 7. But what is the message? Forgive, 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 forgive. See it for what it is. See it for what it is. Be better. We just don't want to live that way because it's unsatisfying. The way they are is more satisfying. Be angry, be petty, be small, be nasty. Great. The lion is not concerned by the bleating of the sheep. There is a reason for that. Be a lion, not a lemming. Support comes from SelectQuote. Listen, here's some real talk, okay? If you are in the family way, or if you have people to take care of, or if you have responsibilities that matter to you, you need SelectQuote, because you got to figure out the best way, the most efficient way to take care of your responsibilities. And that is almost certainly going to involve life insurance. Not something you want to think about, especially when you're younger, but here's the problem with that. You're going to need it, God forbid, not today, but the sooner you get it, the more affordable it is, all right? And odds are, once you start looking for life insurance, you're going to pay too much for too little. Did you know that if you receive life insurance through your job and then you get laid off, you know you lose the benefit, right? Scary, but true. That's why you want to think about SelectQuote and getting your own coverage that works for you and your responsibilities. For over 40 years, SelectQuote has been one of the most trusted brokers in insurance. They've helped more than 2 million Americans secure over $700 billion with a B dollars in coverage. The mission is simple. Find you the right insurance policy for your unique needs, your responsibilities, and hey, maybe even your dreams. They shop, you save. Unlike other one-size-fits-all insurance companies, SelectQuote's licensed agents only work for you. So in as little as 15 minutes, they'll compare policies from top-rated carriers to find you the best fit for your health and your budget. And they work for you for free. No medical exam? No problem. They partner with providers offering same-day coverage up to $2 million without needing to visit your doctor. Get the right life insurance for you for less and save more than 50% at selectquote.com/ChrisC. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Save more than 50% on term life insurance at selectquote.com/ChrisC. That's selectquote.com/ChrisC. Listen, you know that things are off. The economy is all about uncertainty. You got wars overseas, you got inflation, you got borrowing costs, you got consumer issues, you got food issues. Every time you turn on the news, another bank has problems. So, question, what are you doing to deal with the uncertainty, to protect what you've built for your family? That's why people are turning to gold and silver. What is old and trusted is new again. not because it's trendy, but because it works. When the system shakes, real assets matter. This is something you can hold, that you can trade, that you can count on. It's not a maybe, it's a hedge. But there's a trap, and this is what no one tells you, but I will. It's not just about buying gold. You got to buy the right kind. Now, what does that mean? Well, you know these flashy ads, special edition coins, celebrity endorsements? Those are about taking your money, not protecting it. Big commissions they don't tell you about, bad deals. Look, I know about people who have gotten burned, and sometimes you can't bounce back. That's why I am partnering with Dr. Kirk Elliot, double PhD, 20 years in the game. And let me tell you something. One of the few guys, when he says he puts people before profits, he can back it up. No pressure, no gimmicks, just real bullion, gold and silver that you can use, sell, and trust anywhere in the world, no matter what's going on. Right now, Dr. Kirk and his team are right and ready at KEPM and offering free consultations. We all got questions. Guess what? They've got answers. Go to KEPM.com/Cuomo, KEPM, Kirk Elliot, Precious Metals.com/Cuomo, and you'll get straight talk. This is about finding certainty in uncertain times. Get smart, get moving before the next shock hits. With all these people getting paid to provoke you and make you see the world through the lens of their own advantage, how are you supposed to handle it when it comes to making sensitive decisions for your own family? Because that's what matters, right? Once you get off the phone, you got real life, real finances, real decisions to make. So let's talk to somebody who helps us figure out what really matters in all of this noise. My partner, Dr. Kirk Elliot. Dr. Kirk, I need you on this one. Thank you for being with me. Everybody's investing emotionally. Everybody is taking what they feel politically and making it into their mindset on everything. How do you deal with that as an investor, but also as an advisor?
Yeah. So, Chris, it's the easiest mistake to make is get too emotionally wrapped up in everything and anything, because when you do, you're usually going to make the wrong decision. You know, emotions tend to over amplify things in both directions. And so what we try to do is eliminate a lot of our preconceived biases, politically, economically, socially, all of them, and look at things very logically, right? And when you do that, to me, it almost doesn't matter who's in office of the president, right? Because different presidents have different policies. Different policies have different outcomes. Well, once you understand what those outcomes are going to be, well, then you can invest properly. For example, you have a lot of inflation. Inflation can come from the tariff prices, right? Inflation can come from stimulus money, like what we saw during COVID. Inflation is nothing more than expanding the money supply, which can cause prices to go up, or an arbitrary price adjustment like taxes on foreign goods coming in, which is the tariff, causes prices to go up. So when that happens, how do you slow down inflation? Well, if it's stimulus money, you better start raising rates a little bit to slow down that inflation train, right? But here's the problem. When you raise interest rates to slow down inflation and people aren't working, the propensity to pay off that increased debt service is not there. So you've got all these puzzle pieces that you have to look at. And the way that I look at it from a macro view is like right now, for example, we have inflation, we have wages, right, that aren't keeping up with inflation, and the job numbers don't look good. Right? The job numbers that just came out recently, expecting 100,000 new jobs, and it was like minus 33,000. It's like, what forecaster could be that far off, right? but they are. So I look at that and I say, okay, whatever these policies are, whether you agree with the politics behind them or disagree, those numbers are the numbers. And when you have fewer people working, making less and higher prices are going to go up, ultimately, that's going to mean less spending. When you have less spending, corporate America earns less, and they're going to start laying people off, just like Microsoft just did, right? They just laid off like 9,000 people. Google's laying people off again. You look across the board, and it's like, well, there's a lot of jobs being lost right now. So I look at that and I say, okay, the best way to invest is to follow a trend that's bigger than you and I, because that strips out our emotion. And I don't see, for example, the stock market doing well in the near and intermediate term, because I think that people are going to slow down their spending. Now, here's the problem with that, Chris. When you see that, what is the government going to do? If people aren't spending money, well, you certainly can't have the stock market come crashing down. That's bad political view, right? So they print money. You look at the M2 money supply. It just surpassed like the largest amount ever that's been in circulation. Over $21 trillion is out there floating around that the Fed is just printing, right? It's just all this money is out there, and that's going to cause even more inflation. But why do they print it? It's like that movie Field of Dreams, right? You build it and they will come. You print it and people will spend it. But that devalues the currency. Now we're going to have some kind of a banking crisis that will probably come from that, because you've got inflation with lower wages. And what are they doing with that money? They're injecting it into the system, right? Again, politics comes into play. The Fed just came back with a broken policy from the past that didn't work leading up to 2008 and 2009, right? What do we all remember that? All of your viewers remember what happened in 2008, 2009. Because the stock market came crashing down 50%. The Dow and the S&P 500, it took literally 5 years just to break even after that. Why did that happen? Too much liquidity in the system. The banks started giving out money to people who couldn't afford to pay them back because they had to do something with it. So they tried to fix that after 2008, 2009, and said, okay, let's actually put in a supplementary leverage ratio where if banks have toxic assets, they have to have a bunch of money on hand, right, to cover their toxic assets. Well, the Fed just is floating this new idea, which died in 2018, but they're bringing it back to life and saying, hey, let's reduce the supplementary leverage ratio. So banks only have to have 3.5% on hand or so. And we're going to reclassify what a risk-free asset is. Okay, so now banks can have U.S. Treasuries as risk-free assets. Chris, is that really a risk-free asset? The dollar is down 10% year to date. The Japanese bond market is collapsing this year. Sovereign debt is not really a risk-free asset. So banks are going to be loading up with something that's supposed to be risk-free that they're hedging their toxic assets with another declining asset. It's like, I see a liquidity crisis about to happen. So, but why? Why would the Fed be behind this? Why would the government probably be behind this? Well, it's because nobody's wanting the US dollar right now. It's tanking in value. But if you now say every bank in America can hedge their toxic assets with US Treasuries, built-in demand for the currency, that's going to create more and more and more inflation, which is how I now start to use economics and politics to consult with people and say, just look at, I don't care if you like these policies or not. They are there, and we need to take advantage of them so they don't take advantage of us.
Do you think that with the midterms coming around the corner that you'll see more of this activity to kind of meet that need? I mean, that's not something that is a traditional economic analysis, but timing is everything. And with the midterms coming, there's a lot of pressure for one side to make everything look good and for the other side to make everything look bad.
Well, yeah, I wish I could remember the person's name. You might, but when Clinton was president, people said it's the economy, stupid, right? People vote with their wallets.
That was James Carville.
Yes, that was Carville that said that, right? So, and he was right. I think that he was right. People do vote with their wallets. So here's the problem that we have currently is if you're in the Trump administration, it's like you don't have 4 years to build this economy up. You've probably got 8 months, right? Because people are going to vote with their wallets. If you can't turn this ship around, which to me, this isn't necessarily Trump's fault. This goes back president after president after president after president, printing money like there's no tomorrow, which is why we have $37 trillion worth of debt. But he's got to turn it around in the next 8 months, or else they probably lose. The Republicans lose the House and the Senate, and then it's Quagmireville, right? It's like, what's going to happen then? Like a bunch of nothingness. So yeah, I think this is going to continue on because some way, somehow, you've got to try to stimulate the economy and get people happy, thinking that things are going good. This is why, in light of the fundamentals, Chris, where people aren't working and we've got inflationary pressures, why is the stock market at like close to all-time highs? I think that money that they're printing is being injected into the markets to keep them propped up, right? Because logically, it makes no sense. So, but there's got to be a reason for it. I think it's this money that's being printed out of thin air to keep the markets propped up, to keep the masses happy.
Dr. Kirk, thank you for seeing through the spin and helping people who are worried about doing the right thing see what matters. Appreciate you as always.
You bet.
My brothers and sisters, the battle is real. You just got to fight it on your terms. All right? So thank you for subscribing and following. Thank you for being concerned about me. I appreciate it. I really do. I should be more concerned for myself. I'll see you at News Nation, 8p and 11p every weekday night. I'll see you here. I'll see you on the Substack. If you want to get all of what I've been taught about long COVID and what to do with my fitness and my wellness as a function of it, it's all right there for you. Okay? And access to resources that you can use for you and the people that you care about. The challenges in our society are real. We have common concerns. So let's get after it.